with the exceptional reasons, this case justify release. So they're saying there's something so different about this case, that he deserves to be released. Okay, so they say in the history of the statute, the Mann Act has never been applied to facts similar to these to prosecute or incarcerate any other person. That is a big claim, that it has never been used to prosecute anyone the way it's being used to prosecute him. And he may be right. And then they say that in any somewhat similarly situated case, all the defendants were released pending sentencing. And then they talk about the conditions of confinement also justify his release. So they talk about this case. It's called Chavez versus US. And they talk about what it means to have exceptional circumstances. So it goes on to say that exceptional circumstances is not that you need to take care of your family. So that's not an exceptional circumstance. It really has to be something that's different, because everybody needs to take care of their family. So that wouldn't be an exceptional circumstance. Also, having to attend school or being a first-time offender, none of that is exceptional. But they say that the reasons that they're offering here specifically are, in fact, exceptional, because they are incarcerating a person convicted of paying for sex services to be provided to his girlfriend. So they say that is exceptional. So they go on to say that the prosecution and continued incarceration of Sean Combs are unique in the history of the Mann Act. There has literally never been a case like this one, where a person and his girlfriend arranged for adult men to have consensual sex. Oh, I gotta be careful so TikTok doesn't shut me down. To have consensual relations with an adult long-term girlfriend as part of a demonstrated swingers lifestyle, and has been prosecuted and incarcerated under the Mann Act. Combs and two of his longtime girlfriends had a private, intimate life that is not uncommon today. Okay, what do y'all think about that? Is that true? Is their lifestyle not uncommon today? Yeah, raise your hand if you think their lifestyle is not uncommon today. It may not have been common on June 25th, 1910, when the Mann Act, or as it was originally called, the White Slave Traffic Act, was passed, but attitudes about sex and morality have come a long way in the last 115 years. It is worth noting that when the Mann Act was passed to protect the morals and decency of America's women were not allowed to vote. As noted below, perhaps due to the troubling background of this statute, whose history is rich with both racism and misogyny, the Department of Justice has limited its application to those people profiting financially from the business of prostitution and not using it to prosecute consensual adults for their own lifestyles. Okay, so as Millionaire Speaker says, swingers are legal. There's nothing illegal about that. Cindy Singh says, ain't no girl wanting all that. I don't care what the jury said. Well, but we have to go by what the jury said. We don't have a choice. The jury has spoken. We have to respect their decision. And they said the women were not trafficked. Swing all you want. Don't don't hit and abuse. Amen. I agree with that. But remember, he was not convicted of hitting and abusing. T. Barnes says the jury was wrong. There are certainly times when the jury gets it wrong. 100%. She don't know that everyone has a kink. Everybody got some kind of kink, I guess. But it goes on to say, and they kind of, I think this is similar to what they did with their closing argument. They, came out and said, hey, Cassie was not a victim. And that's what they're doing in this letter also. And here they say Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs went to swingers clubs and they had threesomes. Miss Ventura consistently expressed interest and enthusiasm in her intimate life with Combs, including what they called freak-offs. Jane and Sean Combs had threesomes too. When Jane and Combs watched porno together, Jane testified that she contacted two different porn stars and invited them to join her and Mr. Combs. Hopefully TikTok isn't going to shut me down for saying these words. Both Ventura and Jane testified that very often they would see the same men over and over again for years. In July of 2024, Jane testified that very often they would. In July of 2024, Jane testified, for instance, that she suggested to Mr. Combs that they call Paul. Jane explained that she told Combs she missed Paul. When asked why she said that, she responded, because I did. This was a lifestyle, one that both Miss Ventura and Jane chose, one they all, as grown adults, had a right to choose. Like many aspects of sex and intimacy, it was not without complications. It's bouts of jealousy and at times it's frustrations, but that is a hallmark of any serious romantic relationship. And that is what these were, serious, long-term romantic relationships. Okay, there you have it. So they, are putting out there that this was a romantic relationship. The women enjoyed it. The women participated in it, and he should not be punished for, indulging in, as somebody in the chat said, his kink. So this was his kink. He was doing what he liked, and they liked it too. So I know some of y'all don't remember that. Just remember P. Diddy are the women, so he allowed them to have the escorts. Just I know some of y'all don't like that. It sounds a little wild in the context of everything that we know happened. But I mean, this is the reality of what they're alleging. And this is what they found. And they go on to say, and over on YouTube, I have the letter up. So if you want to see the letter, I have it up over on YouTube. A jury listened closely to all the evidence concerning these two relationships at the center of this sprawling racketeering conspiracy indictment, and the jury acquitted Mr. Combs of all of the serious counts and almost all of the conduct charged. The jury concluded that Ms. Ventura and Jane were not forced, coerced, or defrauded into having commercial sex. But it did conclude that there was prostitution, that the payment for the Cowboys for Angels and others amounted to X, despite what the only two escorts called by the government testified. In the lifestyle that he and other adults voluntarily chose, Mr. Combs would be called a swinger. But in the vocabulary of the Mann Act or of prostitution generally, he might, at worst, be somewhat analogous to a John, someone who pays to have X with a ex-worker. In this case, a male ex-worker, more particularly a male ex-worker who works for and is vetted by a well-known agency called Cowboys for Angels. Okay, so is that all it is? Was he just a John? Or do you think there was something more? Was there something more? And, should he be punished should he be punished because his kinks are different from our kinks? So that's the bottom line. Should he be punished because his kinks are different? If anything, cowboys and angels are the pimps. Good point, the business coach, because they talk about that later on. So in fact, they talk about it in the very next paragraph. So they say Sean Combs should not be in jail for this conduct. In fact, he may be the only person currently in the United States jail for being any sort of John, and certainly the only person in jail for hiring adult male escorts for him and his friend when he did not even have X with the escort himself. Okay. Over the last 75 years, the white slave traffic as reflected in the cases brought under the statute as the explicit enforcement policy set out in the United States Attorney Manual. And then they go through the manual and it shows where they explicitly say, as a general rule, prostitution should not be prosecution should not be in the so-called non-commercial cases. So non-commercial cases not involving money, we don't want to waste our time prosecuting people. And then also in this letter, you can see how they're setting up their arguments for his sentencing. So they are also going to be arguing, of course, that his sentence should be a pretty light sentence, or, he should be released at the sentencing. We need to petition DT. He's the only one that can make this right. And I was saying at the beginning that might in fact happen, that the Justice Department might decide that they are going, oh, thank you so much, Rocos, Mom. Thank you for the hand hearts. They may decide they are not going to prosecute him. They are not going to ask for jail time. They just did it recently. So it's not like I'm making this up at all. They just did this very recently. They, in the Breonna Taylor case, only law enforcement person who was found guilty, the Trump Justice Department, they wanted him to serve 1 day in jail. That's it, 1 day. They may, in fact, case. So if you want to see the up over on YouTube. So say historically, the punishments for non-commercial Mann Act violations were similarly limited and restrained. Prior to the creation of the sentencing guidelines, the United States Parole Commission rated non-commercial prostitution offenses under the Mann Act to be Category 1 offenses. This is where we're getting into the sentencing, the lowest severity level, warranting customary total time to be of less than 6 months to 12 months for very good and fair defendant scores, and time up to 16 months only for poor defendant scores. So this is going to be the exact same argument they make when it comes to his sentencing. And then it further provided in the infrequent case where the defendant did not commit the offense for profit and the offense did not involve physical force or coercion, the commission recommends a downward departure of 8 levels. But of course, there was some physical force involved. Now, he wasn't convicted of anything with physical force, but we know there was some physical force involved. The application note was in force through the 1995 sentencing guidelines until Amendment 538 removed the application note for non-substantive reasons as part of a consolidation. So they're saying this is a low-level offense. This is like somebody picking up a prostitute on the street. He should not be in jail for this. And they do say in this letter that everybody else is not being punished. The women, the male escorts, the agency, he's the only one who's being punished. And then they talk about in any similarly situated cases, the people have been released on their own recognizance. So they were not sitting in jail. And they did find a few cases, not a whole lot of cases, but they did find a few cases that's not really similar to what he did, but somewhat similar where the people were not involved for commercial reasons. Then they say there's no risk of flight or danger to the community. Now, we know that the judge thought he was a danger to the community, and the government argued that he was a danger to the community. But they say we turn our attention to the government's argument that the court statements on July 2nd, 2025, that he poses a danger to the community or to others due to his past violence. The court noted that the defense admitted a history of domestic violence as to Ms. Ventura, and that he struck Jane twice in June 2024. However, we strenuously object that Mr. Combs poses a danger to the community if released on conditions. Based on the facts, aside from a single instance on June 18, 2024, where Mr. Combs was provoked by Jane through her own acts of violence, there was no evidence of any acts of violence in the last 7 years. Indeed, the jury notably rejected the government's argument that the June 2024 incident constituted coercion when it acquitted Mr. Combs of the sex trafficking charge in count 4. Also, prior to his arrest in this case, Mr. Combs enrolled in a domestic violence program in which he participated until he was arrested and incarcerated in connection with this case. And didn't we just hear that Diddy was in jail? Wasn't he was doing something while he's incarcerated right now? So I'm sure he's doing all of those things so that when he goes to sentencing, he has a better chance of being released. So guys, if you are here and you don't follow me, please give me a follow so you can find me in the future. The court is familiar with the trial evidence and counsel will not recite it here. The relationship with Ms. Ventura ended in 2018, and there was no evidence at trial of any physical altercations between Combs and anyone else between their breakup in 2018 and the physical altercation with Jane in June of 2024. And regarding Jane, she testified that she started the altercation by smashing his head into her kitchen counter and threw glasses and candles at him. Notably, Jane and Combs dated for 3 years, and their relationship did not have a history of violence. There was only one incident of an alleged assault. There you have it. Do y'all buy that, though? Did other people not testify? We know there was supposed to be at least one other victim who testified, and she refused to come forward. Didn't he also run away to an island when he was accused? No, I wouldn't say he ran away to an island. I mean, if he left, he certainly came back himself in. So I don't know if it's a fair thing to say. If released on conditions, Sean Combs will not be violent to anyone. As we said in court, the jury gave him his life back, and he will not squander his second chance at life, nor would he do anything further to jeopardize his 7 children not having a father and 4 of his children not having a parent at all. The court can fashion any set of conditions, and Mr. Combs will abide by any condition to make the court comfortable that he will be a person. And so the proposed bail package is Combs will sign a $50 million bond secured by Mr. Combs' home in Miami. The bond will be co-signed by 3 financially responsible people. Combs will reside in his home in Miami. Travel will be limited to Florida and New York for attorney meetings, as well as airports necessary to travel between the two. He will be placed under the express supervision of the U.S. Pretrial Services and must report to the agency as directed, and his passport will be surrendered. So that is what they are offering to do. So I must have skipped the part where they conditions in the jail. Oh, yeah. Okay, here it is. So they also talked about the conditions in the jail, and they said that he is an exceptional situation as a post-verdict pre-sentence inmate at the MDC, and his conditions of confinement at the facility qualify as an exceptional circumstance. As the court noted in another case, let's see. They talk about a case where a 70-year-old defendant argued that his age and various medical conditions constituted, but the court found that it need not suffice on its own because it concludes that the conditions at the MDC are themselves exceptional reasons. So the MDC for in many respects, but 3 warrant particular emphasis. 1, continual reports of inordinate periods of lockdown. 2, claims that the facility provides inadequate or substantially delayed necessary medical care, a particular risk in this case. And 3, general issues about the facility. Importantly, MDC as a jail has a significant law enforcement presence within its walls 24 hours per day that are equipped with investigatory and often unregulated authority. And he says that his safety is at risk in the facility. So is that a good enough reason? Wu-Tang Forever, exactly. Jail is bad. It says every person who is in jail. Nobody in jail thinks jail is not bad. So y'all let me know what you think. Are you buying these exceptional reasons for Diddy's arrest? If you think he should be released right now, give me a thumb up. If you think he should stay right where he is, give me a thumbs down. So thumbs up if you think Diddy should be released from jail today. Let me know what you think. And if you think U.S. Attorney's Office is going to change its tune about what his sentence should be now that Maureen Comey is gone, let me know. Because I think that's the big wild card in all of this, what the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to do. So there's an article out tonight. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but Ghislaine Maxwell, the person who has been convicted of trafficking minors. I see, is it about half and half? I see down, I see up, I see up. So it's hard to tell. I think it's about 50-50, guys, in what people think. Um, in your experience, was it common for people to never return to jail after making bail? No, not at all. Mm-mm. So a lot of times, people who were released, they knew they were facing some some amount of time. Sometimes they'd be facing serious time. I'm talking like 10 years, but that was not uncommon at all. In federal court, a lot of times they would allow you a later report date. I'll never forget one case I had where my client had a jail escape. Like he literally escaped from jail. So this was all part of, when in federal court, they usually had your background, and the probation office often had a recommendation about what should happen. So this guy, I think he may have been there because of a probation violation. He had previous jail escape, and it was just some wild stuff. And we had this hearing, and the judge was on the fence about whether my guy should be released. U.S. attorney was like, our judge to let this guy out when he has for a probation violation. But I remember having in court for that guy, I had asked all his family to come. I had like 2-3 rows of people, and I was like, his family is here. I had the grandmother stand up. I had the aunt stand up. I had all these people standing up. And the U.S. Attorney's Office, they were just pissed. In the world are you convincing the judge that this person, of all people, should be let out on bail? But I think at the end of the day, the judge left. He thought about it. He came back and he didn't let my client out on bail. But that's just to show you what the standard was in federal court. It was not as difficult to get people released on pretrial release, or pending trial. So, but in this case, I think the judge is feeling a little differently. I think the judge here in this case is not entertain Diddy being released. So he and personally, it might be better for Diddy not to be released, especially if he's not going to serve a significant sentence. It might be better for him to do this time, get it over with, and move on with his life. And when people are out, they can get into all kinds of trouble. I mean, they can get into, sometimes trouble just finds certain people. He keeps saying no in Cassie's letter. I think people don't know a lot of court versus state court. Yes, federal court is very, very different from state court. In some ways it's more serious, but in other ways it's more, I'm not going to say it's not more lenient at all, but in respect to bail, it's very different. That man should be locked up. No way. He can finish his time on electronic monitoring. I'm sure they're willing to do that also. But you know what they did not offer to do in the conditions of bail? They didn't say he will not have contact with women. He won't have any freak offs. They didn't say anything like that. They did not offer that. So Diddy, we will know. So when the U.S. Attorney's Office, when they file their response, and that's really what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the U.S. Attorney's Office response because that's going to tell us a lot. If the tide is changing in Diddy's case, if the U.S. Attorney's Office has gotten marching orders, just, let's just leave this guy alone, let's just move on, we will see it in this response. If it's business as usual, then they will vigorously oppose him being released. And part of what Diddy's team is probably doing, if the judge denies this motion, then maybe they're going to appeal. So that would be a viable option for them also. Ministers, I don't think the freak office is against the law, so they can't offer it unless they're saying it's a crime. No, it is not against the law, but there are some lawful things that you do. There are some lawful things that you do that the court can prohibit while you're out on bond. So the judge, Subramanian, he has ordered the U.S. Attorney's Office to respond to the motion by Thursday. So they have 2 days to respond. So I think he's moving pretty quickly. How about the tapes? Let's see who was drugged. Okay, Stephen, that boat has sailed. That boat has sailed. They did play tapes in court. They played, and the tapes they played, according to the one juror who had spoken out, he said it was pretty tame. He said it was just a lot of baby oil and rubbing and that type of stuff. I don't mean to laugh, but I find, and the reason I'm laughing is because when he described it as just a bunch of rubbing and stuff, I was like, you got to be effing lying. Because I was expecting some really explosive, scandalous stuff on those tapes. And I'm like, you talking about, they showed y'all tapes with people just rubbing baby oil and that kind of stuff? So nope, that ship has sailed. And that is over with. There are no tapes with him drugging anybody. Funny Love, he is offering $50 million. So he is offering $50 million secured by his Miami house. And before he was saying his mom would sign the bond also. Why I keep doing up the O? They never brought up all that in court. Right. None of that was brought up in court. Seems like y'all should be talking about the Trump and the Epstein files is worse than Diddy. Absolutely. We know with Epstein, minors were involved. We know that for a fact. He was convicted of that in 2008. Ghislaine Maxwell, she was convicted of that. She is sitting in jail right now because of that. But did y'all see the story that came out this evening about Ghislaine Maxwell? So her lawyer says she will only testify for immunity or clemency. So she is making a play for clemency or pardon or immunity. And will she be successful? That is the question. Will she be successful? There is a real possibility that she might be successful. So, and the way her lawyers are trying to present this is that, she has an appeal pending. The appeal could take years. And if y'all want to hear what she has to say, then give her immunity or clemency. And he says that, she can clear up a lot of stuff, a lot of questions that people have had from the very beginning. So do y'all think she can clear up anything, or she's just trying to get get out of jail free card? Wu-Tang forever. She said she won't testify until after the Supreme Court ruling. No, but she also is saying in this article, she'll testify if you give her clemency. So clemency means she could get out of jail. So Trump could pardon her, he could give her clemency, which allows her to get out of jail. Now they also said immunity, but immunity could mean she's still in jail. So it says right here in the article, if she were to be granted clemency, she would be willing and eager to testify openly and honestly in public before Congress in Washington, D.C. She welcomes the opportunity to share the truth and to dispel the many misconceptions and misstatements that have plagued this case from the beginning. I really think that woman is going to end up getting out of jail. Does anybody else feel that way? I really feel like she is going to end up getting out of jail and either being pardoned or getting clemency. So we're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. Somebody is asking who. Of course, she'll leave DJT out of everything. I don't think that he wants her to speak either, but I think he wants to control what she says. And what better way to control what she says than by pardoning her or giving her clemency? What do y'all think? Am I going too far to think that she might receive a pardon or clemency, that she might end up out of jail? She might end up out of jail before Diddy, the way things are going. He already said Epstein was stealing people from Mar-a-Lago. So I saw an article about that, but I didn't read it. Here it is. Trump says Epstein stole underage victim from Mar-a-Lago. What does that mean? He stole underage victim from Mar-a-Lago. President Trump said that he had ended his relationship with Epstein because the financier had hired away spa attendants in Mar-a-Lago, the president's private club in South Florida. He said of Virginia Guffrey, a known victim of Epstein, I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever. Is he saying she was stealing employees? So he's saying that he had hired away some of Trump's employees. So he's not saying it in the way stole, we might think of it. Ms. Guffrey was 16 when she was recruited by Epstein. That same year, Mr. Trump praised Epstein in an interview with New York Magazine. Terrific guy, Mr. Trump said of Epstein. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Now, if that doesn't tell you that he knew what was going on, I don't know what will. 2 years later, the two men became rivals over an oceanfront Palm Beach mansion that had fallen into foreclosure. Mr. Trump ultimately outbid Mr. Epstein for the property, and the long friendship ended. Yes, to me it says he knew what was going on. On Monday, DJT said that he never had the privilege of visiting Mr. Epstein's private Caribbean island, where he entertained famous friends and allegedly trafficked underage girls for X, because he had turned down an invitation from the financier. Between 1993 and 1997, while Trump and Epstein remained friendly, Mr. Trump's name appeared 7 times in Mr. Epstein's flight logs. The flights were between Palm Beach and New York, including a stop in Washington, D.C. So don't call him Mr. Scotland. What they doing in Scotland to him? Eating him up like the U.S. should be. Right. Privilege. The privilege of going to the island. Oh my gosh, hold on. TikTok is making me prove I'm there. Okay, there we go. Asked on Tuesday about his dispute with Epstein, DJT said people were taken out of the spa hired by him, in other words, gone, and other people would come and complain. This guy is taking people from the spa. He continued, when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here. Now, does this sound weird to anybody else? I mean, this sounds really weird to me, the way he's saying this. He's not saying, so before he said he was a creep, and that's why he kicked him out. But now it sounds like he was just upset that he was wooing his people away. That sounds so weird to me. Asked on Tuesday about his dispute with Epstein, Trump said people, I've already read that. He continued, when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people. I've already read that. It is unclear what other employees DJT may be referring to, and the White House did not answer a question about the claim. There are no known records of Epstein recruiting others from Mar-a-Lago. Another young woman who accused Epstein of abuse, Maria Farmer, recalled being eyed by Trump during a brief encounter in Epstein's office, and claimed that Epstein had told Trump at the time that she's not for you. So there you have it. There you have it. Yep, they talked Wu-Tang Forever. They talked about her, that she was the only person that they know of, Virginia Giuffre, who was taken, who worked at the Trump spa and then ended up being abused by Epstein. All right, guys, it is 3:24. I think I'm about to wrap it up for tonight. I will be back tomorrow. We'll see. So y'all, if you don't know, I am also watching the Candace Owens series Becoming Bridget, about Bridget Macron and why she thinks she's transgender. So I did watch 2 more episodes today. So I watched episode 4 and 5. I think I'm going to watch 6 before I do another video. Where are you located? If you're talking to me, I'm located in Georgia. So I think I'm going to do I'm going to watch one more, episode 6, and then I'll do a video. And I will let you, it has been really interesting watching her series. It's not what I thought it was going to be at all. So I will watch episode 6, then I'll do some videos and I'll go live tomorrow to talk about it. So you guys have a wonderful night. I will see you tomorrow and we'll talk tomorrow. Good night.